Asbestos. Back then, an ingredient in so many products and part of so many plants. The miracle mineral.
Actually stone, it is made up of tiny but extremely strong and flexible fibers. These fibers act as a reinforcing agent. Being stone, asbestos will not burn. In fact, it is best known for its use in all fields of fire protection.
Hello, this is the story of how asbestos, from its heyday almost a century ago, came to be here at this big Agrium plant. Today we'll show you the hazards of asbestos and how to protect yourself.
They would blast asbestos ore in open pit mines. This is in Quebec, because Quebec had the world's first commercial asbestos operation over a century ago. It was decades later that these people would suffer the effects of doing this work. Asbestos was almost never sold by itself. It went into other products like this siding. This will be shingles. Asbestos and cement have been mixed together, will be packaged and shipped as shingles to be applied to tens of thousands of homes in North America. Asbestos became a big ingredient in gaskets and may still be used in gaskets and brake pads that are made overseas and imported to Canada. You can still find asbestos-containing tile on floors all over. And asbestos shingles. These are homes in Edmonton with asbestos shingles as siding. But here, the siding's pretty safe.
Being close by does not automatically mean asbestos is hazardous. It has to be freed from the product it's in. And freed asbestos particles have to be breathable, airborne.
That old ceiling tile, especially when it comes off, can release asbestos. If floor tile's disintegrating, asbestos may be released. If your attic looks like this, beware. Often more modern fiberglass insulation covers asbestos-containing vermiculite. There is usually some naturally occurring asbestos in the air around us. The risk increases as the concentration in the air increases. When we breathe in air with asbestos, most fibers are harmlessly exhaled again. But when concentrations are high or were exposed longer, some fibers can become lodged in the lung. They cause irritation, scar tissue builds up, breathing's more difficult. This is asbestosis. Over years or decades, the fibers work their way through lung tissue and can cause cancer. The most devastating result is mesothelioma, a rare type of cancer of the outer lung lining. It shows up several decades later and doesn't respond much to regular cancer treatment. That's pretty much Ron's story.
The doctor listened to his lungs and said there's barely any air. I had mentioned that, because Ron had been in sheet metal, that I was kind of leery of the asbestos. And the doctor's head just kind of and said, "What? Were you working in construction?" Yes.
Over his career, Ron worked at several plants around Edmonton, back before the hazards of asbestos were fully understood.
So we were devastated. And looking at your spouse of 48 years and know that you're not going to have a 50th.
It gets into your emotional system. Talking to the kids and that, I had a hard time. Break down and cry.
Not long after we filmed this, Ron passed away. Asbestos today is a big problem. Not because of the hazard today, we deal with that. But so many were exposed decades ago that caring for those asbestos workers now is today's biggest single occupational health care cost.
Every worker, no matter their trade, has to eliminate the potential for exposure to a hazardous material by knowing the material they're working on.
There are different levels of risk in asbestos remediation. Here's a high-risk example. The coating on this block wall contains asbestos and it'll have to be removed because renovations require the wall be altered. The wall is sectioned off, space is ventilated. A 3-compartment shower arrangement separates the area to be remediated. There is specific PPE and there are detailed procedures for the work. When they leave, workers will go back through again, shower, remove their clothes. These guys are specialists who work around heavy asbestos concentrations every day. Just removing that coating would have released millions and millions of asbestos particles into the air. At our plant in Fort Saskatchewan, built after the hazards of asbestos were well known, we have nonetheless found traces of asbestos. And at Redwater, built when asbestos was still a valued construction material, there is more. And our job is to know where it is.
We keep a total inventory of all the asbestos on our site, and we check it often. And depending on the condition, we replace it before there's any issues.
Sometimes we do major removals of asbestos as part of plant upgrades, and sometimes it will be high risk. You can see on the roof asbestos insulation has been removed on the left. More often, our remediation requires only simple procedures, like this glove bag. He's wearing PPE, and he has air monitors as he works, but the risk is contained within the glove bag. We do lots of air monitoring for asbestos. Some airborne asbestos is allowed, may even occur naturally.
The regulation is you can have one asbestos fiber in an air sample size this big. That asbestos fiber is so small it can only be seen with a microscope.
How might you encounter asbestos? Who knows what the gasket material is in this old flange? You might bump up against some insulation and even damage it, and be suspicious of broken floor tiles.
Over the years, equipment will contact insulated pipes and expose asbestos. All over our plant, you'll see the blue patches that sealed the insulation and rendered the asbestos harmless again. Same thing for building siding. Old asbestos-insulated siding is replaced as required. So read the asbestos warning signs as you would all warning signs at Agrium. And beware of anything that looks like it could contain asbestos or release asbestos. Have the proper PPE for asbestos if you are working near asbestos. Ask if you're not sure if it contains asbestos or anything else about asbestos you're not sure of. And if you may have breathed in asbestos fibers, report that to your supervisor, fill out an incident report. It will take years to rid industrial facilities like ours of asbestos. But we're diligent about it. And if you are too, you can avoid the risk simply by avoiding asbestos. Thanks for watching.